When a patient is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the standard neurological approach focuses heavily on the aftermath. Physicians look for physical evidence, specifically the scars or lesions left behind on the brain and the spinal cord. That diagnostic model assigns a clear medical label to the damage, but it leaves a glaring question unanswered. It offers absolutely no explanation for why those severe, life-altering symptoms suddenly surface on an otherwise random Tuesday. Dr. Bruce Kaplan was 23 years old when he received his MS diagnosis. Over the next few decades, living inside the disease and practicing as a dentist, he realized that chronic illness rarely triggers spontaneously out of thin air. He built a framework called the overflowing bucket theory. Think of the human body as a physiological capacity container with a strict upper limit. From the day we are born, we have a finite, invisible capacity to handle stress and environmental inputs. To understand how a body reaches total systemic failure, we have to look past the exact moment a doctor finds a lesion. We have to map out the decades of invisible accumulation that finally pushed the system past its breaking point. For Kaplan, that accumulation started in childhood. Like millions of others, he grew up with a mouth full of standard silver amalgam dental fillings. What many patients don't realize is that these common silver fillings are composed of roughly 50% mercury. He also experienced direct, acute environmental exposure. As a child, he played with liquid mercury pooled from the shattered glass of broken household thermometers, completely unaware that the element absorbs directly through human skin. This is a chart showing the retention of elemental mercury in the human body over time. While the toxin clears out of general bodily tissues relatively quickly, it becomes stubbornly trapped in brain tissue, where its half-life stretches from 20 to 27 years. Layered over this toxicological baseline was a biological variable. Kaplan contracted a severe case of the Epstein-Barr virus. EBV is the pathogen responsible for mononucleosis, and it never entirely leaves the system after the initial infection, permanently elevating the immune system's baseline alert level. Decades before a patient feels their first symptom of MS, deep tissue retention of heavy metals and latent viral loads can silently consume massive amounts of the body's defensive capacity. Fast forward to Kaplan's early adult years. He was hit with the intense psychological isolation of a highly unforgiving dental school environment, combined with the heavy emotional toll of entering a premature marriage he knew he wasn't ready for. The human autonomic nervous system, the network regulating our baseline survival functions, cannot distinguish between an emotional threat and a physical one. It processes severe, sustained psychological stress entirely as systemic biological inflammation. Add to that the hidden, daily exhaustion of an undiagnosed attention deficit disorder, forcing him to work twice as hard to keep pace with his peers. He fueled that exhaustion with incredibly poor nutritional choices, actively stripping away the precise vitamins and minerals his body needed to heal. Emotional trauma and biological wear and tear pool together in the exact same biological system. By his junior year of dental school, Kaplan's compounding burden had pushed his mill input. That year, he underwent a seemingly routine medical procedure, replacing 2 of his old amalgam fillings with brand new gold crowns. Placing dissimilar metals in the wet environment of the mouth generates a galvanic current, a continuous electrical charge. This acts as a chemical catalyst, accelerating the release of neurotoxic mercury from the remaining silver fillings, dumping it into his system at 10 times the normal rate. That sudden toxicological spike is the final variable. The threshold breaks, the bucket overflows, and the catastrophic immune response we recognize as multiple sclerosis begins. Once Kaplan received his diagnosis, he made an immediate surgical intervention. He had every remaining mercury amalgam filling removed from his mouth to eliminate the galvanic current entirely. While the logic was sound, the surgery did not spontaneously cure his multiple sclerosis. Once the threshold is breached, the rules change. Stopping the active input of the stressor prevents the system from overflowing any further, but it does absolutely nothing to empty out the decades of deep tissue accumulation that is already trapped inside the body. Removing a single trigger rarely results in true autoimmune recovery because the underlying system is still heavily burdened by a vast, complex web of historical factors. Kaplan's specific variables were mercury, the Epstein-Barr virus, and intense academic and relationship stress. Every patient living with a chronic disease has an entirely unique mix of toxicological, biological, and psychological inputs. The modern medical establishment excels at finding and treating the resulting lesions. It rarely takes the time to sit with a patient and identify the root causes that built the damage in the first place. To truly understand a chronic health crisis today, you have to do the work yourself. You have to aggressively map and investigate the silent, compounding storm you lived through yesterday.